Welcome back to another episode of Potential Mayhem with Aaron, where the chaos is consistent, the takes are premium, and the mayhem, well, that's always guaranteed. Let's get right into it. All right, so last week, Wednesday morning, we oddly awoke to news of LA Clippers abruptly ending their relationship with CP3. A statement was released that he was no longer with the team and that he would be sent home from Atlanta while the Clippers were set to take on the Hawks. The Clippers have been making nosediving after losing Bradley Beal for the remainder of the season. This was despite Paul recently announcing this season as his last season. So it was understood that CP3 would not be returning as a Clipper. Prior to the matchup against the Hawks, the 5 and 6 Clippers at that time entered December on a 5-game losing streak. They've since improved, and since the news broke, it's been reported that CP3's leadership style clashed with Coach Lou's coaching style. After a conversation with GM Lawrence Frank, CP was informed the Clippers' plans to move on without him. Superstars Harden and Kawhi admitted they were surprised upon hearing the news, and it begs the question if this is a result of staying too long. We're all aware of CP's greatness and accomplishments, but his most notable season probably was 7 or 8 years ago in Houston with Harden, when the Rockets lost to the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals on their way to winning their third championship. Once the relationship turned stale in Houston, CP began his journey as a coveted vet in the NBA, spending time mentoring up-and-coming talent such as SGA, Wemby, and even a stint as a role player with the Dubs. The writing has been evident and probably could have been anticipated last season or after his departure from Golden State. The league saw a shift at the guard position where your traditional 6'1", 6'3" guard has become damn near obsolete. You now have big guards such as SGA, De'Aaron Fox, Cade Cunningham, and even Luka. There's only a select few guards that stand under 6'5", still able to keep the torch lit, but play a different brand of ball. Wardell, Kyrie, and Dame are all guards that fit that mold, but with a notable caveat. They're all scoring guards playing point. CP is the elder statesman that come into the game and made his name distributor. CP's been known to be vocal in regard to leadership. He held the position of president of the Players Association between 2013 and 2021. But there's a level of tolerance that is associated with talent. So what would make an organization that brought as decorated as players Chris Paul back for his victory lap decide to cut him in the middle of the night and send him home as if it were some disciplinary action? Surely, as more time passes, I'm sure more information will be provided for us to dissect for further understanding. Also last week, it was reported that Giannis, along with his agent, met with the Bucks front office regarding their future. This comes on the heels of the Bucks releasing Dame after his Achilles tear. The Bucks signing Miles Turner, and the news of the Knicks attempting to work out a trade to acquire Giannis this past offseason. Not much information has been divulged surrounding the conversation. Doc Rivers has been adamant that Giannis has not requested a trade, and the media is making more of the situation than those in-house. Luka left the team to be present for the birth of his second child and has been reported to have inquired about the possibility of the Lakers acquiring Giannis before departing. Later that evening, Giannis dropped to the floor after driving to the basket and has since been ruled out for 4 weeks due to a calf injury. As we approach Week 15 with the Thursday night divisional matchup between the Falcons and the Bucks, we have seen more clarification regarding the NFL playoff picture. The NFC West is still tight, battle with leading rivals still scheduled to match up at least one more time before the season ends. The LA Rams responded the way I would like to experience a team with championship aspirations to do. Back on the West Coast, they disregarded the Arizona Cardinals, where all the 3 phases played well. Puka had his first multi-career touchdown game while Blake Corum ran wild for 128 yards on 12 carries. Puka had 167 yards on 7 catches. The defense did their thing, 45 points on the Cards. It's Detroit at SoFi. Since the QB swap, the Rams have won the championship and struggled to pick up a win against Goff and the Lions. This should be a test similar to the previous matchups, which have included a divisional matchup between the two. This year, the Rams sit atop the NFC with a shared record of 10-3 with divisional rival Seattle Seahawks. To show how close this playoff push is, the Seahawks are currently 5th in the NFC with both of our divisional nemesis and the 49ers sitting at 6th with a 9-4 record. The Lions are in a fight of their own at 8-5 and currently 3rd in the NFC. North behind the Packers and the Bears, which indicates a hungry and desperate Detroit team will show up on Sunday. I think that goes without being said. Goff will have a chip on his shoulder, of course, returning to the building that I guess you could kind of say he built, but of his former team where they won a chip after his departure. But the Rams have to understand the ramifications of a loss right now. Currently in the driver's seat, and I would like to see us close the door, if you may, on any and every opponent at this time. I would like to see the lack of concern for everybody else's situation right now, knowing how small that window is. We've seen how disruptive Sonic and Knuckles can be, but not against this defense. St. Brown seems to be healthy, but I'm sure our guys up front want to be as intimate as possible with Golf Sunday afternoon. I'm sure McVay's staff seem to be locked in, so there's no concern that the Rams will be prepared and ready to go. The division-leading Patriots host the early season favorite Bills in an attempt for Buffalo to keep the competition alive for the AFC East. At 11-2, New England has positioned themselves to enter the playoffs at number 2 overall, tied with Denver, who shares an identical record. Denver hosts Green Bay, who's coming off of a narrow victory against Chicago that allowed them to reclaim the first position in the NFC North from the Bears. Serious implications for both matchups. Buffalo's coming off a comeback 39-34 win against Cincy, where a late turnover by Joe Burrow didn't hurt the Bills' ability to seal this victory. Patriots came into Buffalo, won a shocker earlier this season. Look to play spoiler again this weekend as they attempt to run away with the division. Last matchup, Diggs was able to showcase what's still in the tank, so I imagine the Bills will keep a close eye on them this time around. We'll have to see how effective Cook and Co. can run against this Pats defense, as May is currently considered an MVP candidate. Denver doesn't have a walk-down easy streak this week, with Green Bay coming to visit after trading for Michael Parsons right before the start of the season. Green Bay seemed primed to lead the NFC as the favorite to appear in the Super Bowl. But after a loss to the Browns, a tie with the Cowboys, and losses to both the Eagles and the Panthers, along with the earlier-than-expected emergence of the Bears, the Packers found themselves in a closer-than-ideal challenge for the division title. Both the Bears and Lions will be threatening if they have a say-so before the regular season concludes. So after the Eagles' Monday night loss to the Chargers, the Cowboys' hopes remain alive after Philly failed to shut the door. The Eagles have the Raiders on a short week, but it will depend on what version of the Eagles decide to show up. Be able to get Saquon off and running to avoid Hurts from having to drop back with Crosby lining up on the other side. They should, and that should be a shakeback game for Philly. The Cowboys host the 5-8 Vikings. If the Cowboys can win, they can keep pace and keep their hopes alive amidst everybody else's drama. Them and Philly are the only two fighting for contention in that division, so that works in their favor. The 6-7 Chiefs host the 9-4 Chargers this week after a Sunday night loss to the resilient Texans. Denver sits atop the division with the banged-up Chargers 2 games behind. The Chiefs need to win out and will require all the help they can get in the form of losses by damn near everybody. After the Steelers win last week, the Ravens put emphasis on their divisional matchup against the Bengals this week. Both teams are desperate for a win to keep their chances alive. Although at 4-9, the Bengals may just be on borrowed time as they are on the brink of elimination. A win now may just prolong the inevitable and make the road more challenging for the Ravens. So the Colts have brought Phillip Rivers out of retirement after the news of MVP frontrunner Daniel Jones tore his Achilles this past weekend. Rivers has been retired for 5 years and not seen any NFL action during that time, and there's been plenty of discourse surrounding his age. There's a lot to be said about the Colts choosing to go this route for a number of reasons. Anthony Richardson would be the go-to, but he's on IR with an orbital injury. And the 8-5 Colts are looking to salvage their championship aspirations with the Houston Texans finding a new post and Jacksonville taking control of the division. To add insult, the Texans face the Cards while the Jags face the Jets. So an uphill battle to say the least for the sliding Colts. We all imagine that Seattle's defense will try to send Rivers back into retirement after this week, and hopefully it isn't via injury. The league should probably take note of this display, possibly consider rules that prevent teams from putting players in danger like this, because nothing about this idea seems like a good idea. It would be different if Rivers had been playing these past 5 years, but to come in off the street at 44, Nothing about this sounds like a good idea.
He never met a camera he didn't like. And it just seems like being out of the limelight.
I think it's disgusting. I don't understand.
Right.
He didn't take it seriously.
He totally disrespected
unserious.
the process.
Brash and arrogant in his pre-draft.
Trust me, it'll be everybody else's fault but Shador's.
Need to.
You think Shador's going to be an epic set your organization back another 2 or 3 years? The best way to
First of all, I'd like to publicly apologize to Shador.
You deserve the double stupid award for that.
Stupid and mean.
Yeah.
They bet a late first rounder and drop literally.
In almost 40 years, I've never seen anything like this.
Nothing. At no point did Dylan Gabriel play with 4 offensive linemen that are no longer on the team.
Now, after all of the drama engineered this past offseason, Shador faced off against this year's #1 draft pick, Cam Ward. Shador showed up. He went 23 of 42 for 364 with 3 touchdowns. One pick I felt only occurred due to impatience and Shador wanted to make a play. Outside of that single play, though, the guy we all hoped would show up was present in the moment and in command. Everybody that's been watching Shador couldn't have been too surprised because we watched him do this throughout his collegiate career, which is why originally he was projected to be a top, 2 or 3 pick. Though the Browns lost by 2 after a botched 2-point conversion, Shador was the better of the 2. And Shador has continued to improve each week. He's gotten a nod to start, which has earned him the job to close out the season. Shador has shown plenty of upside, which could create a path for him moving forward. Deshaun Watson has been with the team as he continues rehabbing, and the Browns have mentioned their plans on him returning next season. With something around $80 million, I think I heard, a cap hit, if they were to move on from him. It's believed they will not be looking to move on from Watson, which means if Shador continues to close the season with a great showing, he could ideally become trade collateral. The Browns will likely have a couple of nice first rounders with a 3-10 record currently, which could potentially get worse, and the rights to Jacksonville's first round via their trade for Travis Hunter last offseason. You throw Shador in the mix, and the Browns could have a nice little haul back. I imagine that won't be the route the Browns pursue, though. I think they will see moving on from Shador as too high of a risk and will probably move on from Gabriel instead. Shador will most likely be brought in to back Watson, and if they're smart, they'll look to bolster that offensive line and make some additional upgrades throughout the roster. All right, so that's all for today's episode of Potential Mayhem with Aaron, where the takes stay hot, the mayhem stays messy, and the stories never stop unfolding. I'll catch you next time.